All right. Up here we've got the ball grounds. This is where y'all play stickball, is that right?
Yeah, this is where the social game of stickball is held. This is they call it the ball court or stickball field. And there's different forms of the game, but this is one that we've retained here, and we play on certain schedule events and whatnot. And it's kind of it's a community game to where children up to elders can come in and play, men and women. Of course, this is where the men use the ball sticks, and the women are all on one team and the men are all on another team. And the pole is the goal. You can see the top, what we call the head. That's the target to hit.
So you whack the head with the ball, and you score how many points?
Here it's 4.
You get 4 points there. And if you hit the pole,
it's above. There's a mark, and between that mark and the head is 1 point.
You got 1 point there.
So they keep score. There's a scorekeepers. They make marks on the ground, on a designated line, and that's how you know who wins the game.
Well, you're talking about children and elders playing. I gather it's not as rough as it might have been back in the old days.
This game here is in the way we've been instructed. It's the intention of it is to bring people together, because anymore, like I said, we don't live at our ground anymore. We live scattered across the Cherokee Nation, and some even live outside the Cherokee Nation. Our procedure here is that through the winter we might not see each other all that often, and before we can start dancing again next spring, we should have a designated number of assemblies here at this ball court, to where our people come back in and become sort of reacquainted with each other.
I should say, in case there are some folks who are wondering, we're not going to be shooting any footage of the actual grounds interior. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about why that is.
Yeah, we just out of respect for our ground, and out of respect for all the people affiliated with this ground, we prefer to adhere to our rules. Everything has to rest. And in our tradition, in our heritage, that fire is a living part of our people. And just as you and I have to rest at night, we have to rest at night. And we have to eat and breathe air. The fire is no different. It's very intense, very engaging during the season of dancing and medicine, playing ball. And then we have that resting time, which is now.
Right.
And that fire has to rest. And it'll regain its energy for next year.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear you talk about it as such a living thing, something that hungers, that wants to be around people, that is alive, and that lives in the folks here.
The growing season was all messed up. There was kind of a little ice age, the 3 or 4 years before removal. And if you remember, during the removal, the forced removal, it was the coldest winter on record. The Mississippi froze. Well, that had been going on for 3 or 4 years. It was an environmental catastrophe going on. And so our corn crops weren't producing, Creeks and Cherokees, and nothing was coming up. The summers were cool and the winters were really harsh. We have stories of our people freezing to death in their homes, cabins and whatnot. Well, the men were forced to go back to hunting year-round because the crop was failing. This is leading up to the removal. And they say that there were so many Cherokee men with guns all over the countryside hunting for food that it scared the white people. And so the white people demanded that the Army do something about it, the government do something about it, these Indians with guns everywhere. there was a disarmament. They went through and they made a demand among the Cherokee people. They had to turn their guns in, weapons in. One of the final groups of men to keep outlandish killing from going on, they surrendered their weapons at this fort, this military fort. And the way the story was told to me, the men went into the fort and each carrying their rifle, and they stacked their rifles up, you know, like this. And as they were leaving, one of the military officers made an announcement. They said, "You men, when you turn your gun in, you can pick up your rations at the gate before you leave." And our Cherokee men, they talked about that briefly, and they gave a response to the military. And they said, "We've turned our rifles in, but we would rather starve to death than to take your rations." And so they left. And they did starve to death, lots of them. And that's the condition our people were in at the time of the roundup, before they started the detachments west, you know, on the forced removal. But to me, that speaks of the terms in which we were willing to live and die. If we couldn't provide for our own self, then we were willing to die as a Cherokee. But not all of us died. Some of us survived, and we made it here. Made it right here where we're at today.
Carrying on and adapting and still playing ball and still dancing. Yeah, very good. Thanks for sharing that.